London's Underground Central Line on the TfL network, 46 miles of track, 49 stations. Ghost sightings, moaning and shrieking reported in the tunnels. An Egyptian mummy, World War II bomb, ancient burial grounds. All lead to some real creepy encounters that have been reported by both passengers and staff over many years. Thank you for joining me on another Your Spooky Chronicles production. I hope and trust you enjoy these tales, and remember, there are many more encounters from the underground on the channel. The line opened in 1900 and had a nickname, which was the Twopenny Tube. Many of the stations are deep underground, making them ideal during World War II as air raid shelters. So let's get the stories underway and see what people have been saying. Remember to share your spooky stories if you have travelled on the Central Line. We would love to hear them. We start the stories off with a World War II disaster. Bethnal Green station represents perhaps the most sombre chapter in the spectral history of the Central Line, serving as the site of the deadliest civilian disaster on the British home front during the Second World War. On the evening of March 3, 1943, an air raid siren triggered a mass influx of approximately 1,500 to 2,000 residents seeking shelter within the station's deep-level platforms. Imagine the scene: the steps down to the station, wet from the rain, making them slippy. Panic as all those people head down the steps. A woman tripped and fell close to the bottom. The people behind her couldn't see what happened and were pushed forward by those who followed. The entire event lasted only seconds, but tragically, 173 people lost their lives in that crush. Most of them were women and children. The absence of a central handrail or adequate lighting added to this nightmare. The haunting of Bethnal Green is distinguished by both sound and feeling. These phenomena align with theories of residual haunting, where intense emotional trauma is imprinted upon the location. Our first tale from 1981 involves station master John Graham, who was working alone in the station office. He described hearing the initial soft sounds of children sobbing, which rapidly escalated into an unpleasant sound of female screams and general panic. This episode lasted between 10 and 15 minutes, causing the station master to flee the station in a state of absolute terror. Other tales come from maintenance workers and cleaners who have had to work late shifts, often share some pretty eerie experiences. They talk about this strange feeling of someone being right behind them on the stairwell long after the station has closed for the night. It's not that they actually see anyone, it's more like they can just feel a presence close by. Have you ever had that feeling? It's strange, isn't it? A lot of these stories focus on the lower part of the stairwell, especially around the spot where a tragic accident happened back in 1943. Take, for example, one cleaner from the 1970s. While she was making her way down the stairs during her late shift, she suddenly felt this weird pressure at her back, almost like someone had stepped into her bubble. Thinking it was just another staff member passing her, she moved aside to let them through. But when she turned around, the staircase was completely empty. No one in sight from top to bottom. Now that's pretty spooky stuff, right? However, back in the late 80s, a maintenance worker was checking out some lighting fixtures near the entrance when he felt something strange while going up the stairs alone. He mentioned that it felt like the space around him got tighter, almost as if there were a bunch of people crowding the stairwell. He paused for a moment to gather himself because he thought someone was about to brush past him, but there was nobody there. Some staff think that feeling a bit uneasy at the station has a lot to do with its history. Everyone knows about Bethnal Green's wartime tragedy. It's not something you can easily forget. With memorial plaques and public events, it's clear that the people working there are aware of what happened. So, it makes sense to wonder if this knowledge affects how they feel in the dark, especially when they're alone. What makes Bethnal Green stand out from other stations is the fact that people consistently report their spooky experiences in the same spot. Most stories focus on a particular stretch of stairwell rather than the platform area. This is significant because it's right where the tragic crush happened back in 1943. A question for you: do you think a place like this, where such a tragedy happened, that the atmosphere there holds on to the memory? Here is a quick tale from Marble Arch Station that is associated with a distinct visual apparition, a well-dressed man in a trilby hat and overcoat. Sightings typically occur on the station escalators, where passengers report the unnerving sensation of someone standing directly behind them. When they turn to face the individual, the man vanishes. This figure is often categorized as a modern ghost, appearing in a style of dress common in the mid-20th century, and its presence taps into the urban fear of being followed in anonymous public spaces. The Central Line is also home to one of the network's most storied ghost stations, the disused British Museum Station, located between Tottenham Court Road and Holborn. Opened in 1900, the station was closed in September 1933 due to the expansion and modernisation of Holborn Station, which offered better interchange capabilities. The station's proximity to the British Museum's collection of antiquities led to an enduring urban legend: the haunting of the tunnels by an Egyptian spirit. The spirit is frequently identified as an Egyptian princess or a priestess of Amen-Ra, stirred by the presence of the unlucky mummy, exhibit number 22542, within the museum. Sightings typically describe a figure in a loincloth and headdress, wailing and shrieking through the tunnels. For those who work on that section of the line, it's not just some forgotten old station, it's actually an area that still plays a role in the whole network. So, even though it's not open to everyone, it's still very much alive behind the scenes. When the station shut down in 1933, the stories didn't just go away. Instead, they took on a life of their own. In the years that followed, stories started going around about some weird happenings linked to the old station. One of the most talked about tales is of two women who supposedly disappeared from the Holborn platform back in 1935 after they went to see a movie that was partly filmed at the British Museum. Now here's the issue. There's no police record that backs up this story, and you won't find it mentioned in any old newspapers either. It's more of a legend than a fact. Just something people keep repeating over and over again. But this spooky tale has stuck with the station's name ever since, and it makes you wonder why such a story exists. Back in the late 1930s and again in the 50s, maintenance workers claimed they heard a persistent noise coming from where the closed platform is. At first, people thought it might just be brake strain from a train somewhere down the line, and honestly, that theory seemed pretty reasonable. Here's the thing. Sound can be super unpredictable in curved tunnels. Plus, since the Central Line connects to busy areas, it makes sense that noises could carry quite a distance. So yeah, while people were speculating about spooky stuff happening down there, those strange sounds had everyone scratching their heads. A tale from the early 1980s, during some signal upgrades near Holborn. A technician who was checking out cable runs noticed something weird. There was this steady metallic tone that didn't seem to move along the track like it should. There wasn't any train scheduled to come through at that time. They thought maybe the sound could have come from another part of the line, but once again, there were no vibrations or changes in pressure to back that up. Over time, people started to link these stories with the old legends about a woman who's supposedly spotted near the old station. Some staff mentioned hearing this high-pitched noise like a scream, mixed in with the regular sounds, while others insisted it was just some mechanical whirring. How you interpreted it often depended on whether you knew about the station's spooky reputation. Is it connected to the unlucky mummy, or to the two women who vanished? No one really knows. The unlucky mummy narrative extends beyond the underground, with folklore suggesting that the artifact was responsible for a string of misfortunes, including the sinking of the Titanic, and that's another story on its own. While the British Museum maintains that the artifact, a beautifully designed wooden coffin lid, has no evil powers, its presence continues to fuel the spectral geography of the Central Line. The migration of the spirit from British Museum Station to Holborn suggests that underground hauntings are not necessarily static, but can adapt to changes in the infrastructure. Here is another short tale. At Shepherd's Bush Station, reports frequently centre on the ghost of Florence Taylor. In February 2005, a night shift supervisor named Sharon Dixon encountered a translucent woman dressed in 1940s attire, a suit with padded shoulders, seamed stockings, and hair styled in rolls. The figure was seen sitting in one of the station's curved alcoves, holding a telegram and weeping. The spirit reportedly whispered, "He's not coming home," shot down over Dresden, before vanishing into the air, leaving behind the scent of old-fashioned perfume. Investigation into local archives revealed that Florence Taylor was a real individual whose fiancé, a Spitfire pilot named James Harrison, went missing over Dresden in February 1945. Florence reportedly spent months waiting at Shepherd's Bush station for his return, eventually taking a job as a ticket seller there before jumping in front of a train in 1947. This specific haunting serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring nature of grief. Possibly the most famous modern haunting at Liverpool Street occurred in the summer of 2000, involving a station supervisor, Steve Coates, and a CCTV operator. During a night shift, the operator noticed a man in white overalls standing on the eastbound Central Line platform near the tunnel entrance. When Coates went down to investigate, he found the platform entirely deserted. The operator, however, insisted over the radio that the man was standing directly next to Coates. As Coates turned to leave the platform, he discovered a pair of white paper overalls lying on a bench, overalls that had not been there moments before and that no living staff member had placed there. This incident is particularly significant as it was witnessed simultaneously through two different mediums: direct human observation and electronic monitoring. The discovery of the physical overalls suggests a manifestation that is not merely visual, but possesses a degree of material presence, a rarity in underground hauntings. That is definitely an interesting tale. Liverpool Street is one of the busiest spots along the eastern part of the Central Line. If you step above ground, you'll find yourself in the heart of the financial district, surrounded by shiny glass buildings and towering offices. But dig a little deeper, literally, and you'll discover that this station sits on top of a much older history. During construction and later renovations in the area, archaeologists uncovered parts of the old Bethlem burial ground, along with other historic remnants that date back centuries. These earlier burial sites beneath Liverpool Street are well documented in archaeological records. When redevelopment happened in the 20th century, any remains were treated with respect and carefully relocated, allowing the station to run smoothly without any hiccups. While this fascinating layer of history isn't exactly hidden, it often goes unnoticed by commuters who are just trying to get from point A to point B. When upgrade projects were underway, teams working on electrical and track maintenance got access to service corridors and ventilation shafts that the public never sees. These hidden areas have very little light, and you can tell they've been around for ages. There's a lot of evidence showing how they've been modified over decades. Cables have been rerouted multiple times, and some of the brickwork is even older than the modern tiling you see on platforms today. Some maintenance workers have shared some pretty strange experiences they've had while working alone in certain service areas. One story from the early 90s stands out. A technician was checking a panel near a ventilation shaft when he heard what sounded like movement further down the hallway. It was as if something lightweight was shifting around, or someone was dragging their feet on the concrete. The ventilation system was running smoothly, and later on, it was suggested that changes in airflow might have caused some light debris in the shaft to move around. The technician accepted that explanation, but couldn't shake off the experience, which stayed with him for a very long time afterwards. There are some interesting stories floating around, shared more as casual chatter than anything officially documented. Workers have reported feeling like they were being watched while inspecting deeper service passages. One engineer shared that he kept glancing over his shoulder repeatedly while checking a line of junction boxes, even though he was alone in that section of the tunnel. He later said it wasn't fear that made him look back. It was more like a strange awareness that seemed way too intense for what he was doing. What makes Liverpool Street stand out from other areas is how different layers of history come together in one spot. This station is actually built over a historic burial ground, which adds an intriguing twist to its story. You can find older materials, like bricks and stones, incorporated into the station's structure, leftovers from earlier times in London's building history. Plus, modern electrical systems run side by side with older tunnel linings in some parts of the station. It creates a fascinating blend where the past and present literally meet underground. Next is 4 Short Tales. Several other Central Line stations or their immediate surroundings are notable for hauntings that involve entities moving between the station and nearby structures. First is St. Paul's. The Black Dog of Newgate is a famous spectral hound said to skulk along the brick wall in Amen Court, just behind the station. Accompanied by a vile smell, the beast is believed to be the spirit of a 13th century sorcerer who was consumed by starving prisoners. Second is Tottenham Court Road. The station is adjacent to the Dominion Theatre, built on the site of the 1814 Moo Brewery beer flood, which killed 8 people. Theatre-goers and staff have reported a spectral girl believed to be one of the victims. Third is Stratford. At the Channelsea depot nearby, employees in 1994 reported a grinning man in a cape and top hat who would vanish after being spotted, leaving witnesses feeling cold and apprehensive. And finally, Mile End. This station is haunted by a man in overalls who appears on the Central Line platform after the station has closed. More speculatively, the station has been the subject of urban myths regarding a space-time wormhole or a gateway to hell, following incidents of flying debris from passing trains. These all sound a bit strange, don't they? But nevertheless are reported encounters. What do you make of them? As you have just heard, every account has its own story, and there are many more to come. The underground is this old, sprawling system lying beneath a city that's seen centuries of history. Sound in here can be pretty unpredictable, like one minute it's quiet, and the next you hear something weird. Materials shift around, and air pressure changes in these cramped spaces can mess with your head. Plus, if you're working late into the night, you never know what you can encounter. Thank you for watching this Spooky Chronicles production. Click that like button to help push the video out to other viewers. Tap subscribe to join our community. Ring the notification bell and hit that hype button so you never miss another video. And share this video with a friend who swears they don't believe in ghosts. Good night.